Hey everybody, so I just got out of seeing Halloween Kills because, of course, it's October and I wanted to see a spooky movie. Unfortunately, the spookiest thing about this movie was how disappointing it was at the end. So I'm just gonna go out and say it that this movie wasn't bad, but I felt it was very disappointing in the ending because, surprise, Michael Myers does not die, which, given what this movie is about, would have actually been very fitting. I know the whole point is that he never dies so that we can have a sequel, so that we can keep making sequels. Because he's just pure evil and you can't kill evil. But yeah, so this movie is a sequel to the 2018 Halloween movie, which was basically just a direct sequel to the classic 1978 Halloween movie. And it just said none of the sequels or remakes or any of that ever happened. It's just here's what's going on 40 years later. And I really liked that movie. I thought it's just a nice, simple sequel to Halloween and kind of dealing with, Laurie Strode's, the main girl from the original movie, her PTSD and kind of how she's gone crazy and how it's like affected her daughter and granddaughter. And at the end of that, and that movie was just kind of a simple slasher movie. Michael Myers goes around, kills people, but it ended with a really good set piece kind of end fight where Laurie had, who's played by the wonderful Jamie Lee Curtis, who both in that movie and this movie, you know, I wouldn't say it's the best writing. Certainly, at least for her, it's not the best writing I've ever heard, but she's certainly giving it her all and really loves playing that part. But anyways, at the end of the 2018 movie, she basically has like this cabin in the woods doomsday bunker that is a trap to lead Michael into. And at the end of that movie, she leads him in and sets the whole thing on fire. But of course, like last shot, we see he's disappeared because he always gets away. So this movie is kind of taking place simultaneously what's happened the rest of this night. And yeah, it starts out kind of showing what some of the police officers were doing on the original Halloween night back in 1978, and just kind of I can't remember the officer's name, but we thought he died in the 2018 one. No, he survives, and like a lot of it's just him and Jamie Lee Curtis in a hospital room. I just kind of talking about like what Michael is, and they ultimately agree, which with what Dr. Loomis said back in 1978, that he's just pure evil. But the rest of this movie, it's more like the fallout of what happened on in the 2018 movie. So a bunch of more people got killed, and the movie can't really decide what tone it wants to take. Sorry about the lights. Because half of it is actually really interesting and just kind of dealing with how a community deals with something this horrible happening to them, not just 40 years ago, but now it's happened again, and you have this monster on the loose, and the police and the authorities that you're supposed to trust just are incapable of dealing with it because they failed to kill Michael multiple times and like failed to keep people safe. And like, one of the first scenes of the movie is Michael survives the fire that was supposed to incinerate him, and the fire department comes by, and you have a great like as Lori and her daughter and granddaughter are driving to the hospital, they see the fire department, the fire truck's coming back to like put out the fire, and she's like, "No, let it burn." And of course, it was a big mistake of them not to do that because Michael just starts murdering all these firemen. And I think the kill count in this movie is really high. You could also just call this it's Halloween Michael kills everybody because man, it's a massacre, which I guess is kind of the point, right? But anyways, the two main kind of locations we have, it's back in Haddonfield, the suburban town where Michael keeps going on a killing spree, but then at the hospital where ultimately, like, you have the side of a bunch of the townspeople, a bunch of the guys that survived the original Halloween night going, look, this ends tonight. We find and we kill Michael, no questions asked. We should have done this 40 years ago. But and like they have their tagline, "Evil dies tonight." Spoilers, it doesn't. Um, and they kind of all get whipped up in a frenzy. Michael kills more people. I he, but it's the problem is like with the tone, right? It's that it switches between like really wanting you to take seriously what this community has gone through and kind of what their mentality is after something this horrible and incomprehensibly just horrific has happened to them, and then like just, oh, Michael doing his thing, like stabbing people with a light, with like an with a like a fluorescent light through the neck, and like he's like trying out different kitchen knives because he's always got to have a kitchen knife, and just being an unstoppable monster. And eventually he goes back to his original house that he lived in, that has now inhabited by a gay couple, and like, oh look, inclusivity and diversity in our horror movies. And people were like, there's articles where like people are saying Michael is homophobic because he killed a gay couple, as if he doesn't kill everybody else. If anything, the point of Michael Myers is that he is just the embodiment of fear, anger, hate, and pure evil in the form of like humanoid that's wearing an old William Shatner mask. But he kills them, and like one of the big things that happens is, and you get like a neighborhood watch forming to try and track him down, but he keeps killing all of them because he's unstoppable. It really kind of breaks a lot of like what we think of Michael Myers, because even in the 2018 one, like he didn't kill that, he wasn't like that unstoppable, whereas in this it's just yeah, he can, because it was always kind of vague, because like people would shoot at him and like, okay, maybe he could survive a couple gunshots, or like people keep missing, or like they just like knock him on the head with like a baseball bat. But in this, it's like it's explicitly made clear Michael Myers is not a human, because he is explicitly shown to be shot, stabbed, beaten over and over again, like, and he just gets back up like nothing happened. But one of the things that happens, and it's a scene that I think really needed to be taken out of this, and like really didn't, it's a scene that should have lasted like 5 minutes, but becomes like a major plot of the movie, where in the 2018 version, Michael escapes from the mental hospital, and there was another guy that also kind of escaped on the bus and is running around, and people think that that's Michael, and so they try and kill him, and like he's like wandering around the hospital going like, help me, but like the angry mob now wants to like kill him because they think that's Michael, and then like they're surrounding him, and he jumps out the window of the hospital and kills himself. And like it's all like emotional and weird, because it's like we don't know who this character is, and it's like the point is being that Michael has made all these angry townspeople so furious that like they're just, anybody that they think is Michael, it doesn't even have to be him, they're gonna kill. But like it kind of takes away time. I think this movie should have been longer, and it should have been the end of the Halloween franchise, like, because this really feels fitting in terms of like going, because I really like the tone that they had with the 2018 one of just kind of exploring what happens to Laurie Strode and a family and a community, and this kind of helped expand it upon this, but it keeps alternating between like, oh, the like how depressing it is of what happened and people trying to deal with the grief, versus Michael just being a slasher villain. And like at the end, like right at the end, like where I get really disappointed and got really kind of mad at the movie is when Allison's mom, Allison is Laurie Strode's granddaughter, she lures Michael out of his childhood home and like into a trap where all the neighborhood watch and all like the adults in Haddonfield, they just start wailing on him with baseball bats. They shoot him, they stab him, and all of that. And the thing is that that's supposed to be the cathartic scene. Laurie Strode should have been there just to finally see him die, or it should have been like another confrontation of her in Michael's house and they both die together, because she's kind of implying, or she thinks that his curse, it's linked to her, that maybe if she dies and he dies, then they are finally gone. But that doesn't happen. No, like it just shows Laurie Strode and police officer. She's just like giving a monologue about, oh, Michael's evil and you can't destroy him, because of course Michael gets back up again and kills everybody in the neighborhood. And I'm not even sure how many people are still alive in Haddonfield at this point, but yeah, it just showed. And then Laurie Strode's daughter also gets killed, and so all we're left with is just, a shot of Laurie Strode looking kind of just gone in the hospital, and Michael Myers in his house. And darn it, I wanted this could have been a very cathartic end to a horror series that has definitely been on its ups and downs. And it's like, I've only seen the original Halloween, and I saw 2018 in this one. And I think that's possibly the best way to see it, just because everything I've heard, the Halloween sequels are not very good, or any of the remakes. But man, yeah, it's this should have been the end. This should have been the final confrontation. The townspeople and or Laurie Strode, they finally definitively kill Michael. Like, they cut off his head, they just blow him up. Something. Like, what would have happened if you just strapped a bunch of dynamite to Michael and just blew him up? Would the pieces just kind of congeal back together or something? It's just, so that was really disappointing. They're almost certainly going to do another one, and maybe if that one is like the final confrontation, that can redeem this. But this, like, they don't really portray this as like a trilogy, because, like, the thing is, who really cares about Halloween anymore outside of nostalgia? Which I guess that's what they make with most movies. But it's like, it's a big risk with not a huge payoff, I think. But yeah, so the thing is, a lot of the movie was still pretty good. Like, Michael killing people, it's fine. And it's like, again, it being campy and not that serious, because, of course, when Michael's killing people, everybody acts like idiots and, like, doesn't apparently, and, like, completely loses their ability to, like, control their hands to try and stab him or shoot him. And I'm like, that would be fine if, we weren't supposed to take it seriously. But as the other half of the movie shows, you kind of are. It seems like they're expecting you to take this seriously, and they don't. And so, yeah, like, but, on a technical level, it's pretty good. They really capture the feel and the look of the original movie, which is good. Because I think it's like this 2018 and the 1978 original, I think they're supposed to be kind of linked to be one movie. They're trying to kind of retroactively do that. And they do a good job. But, man, I would have definitely had this could have been a very satisfying conclusion, and it wasn't. Like, they really should have killed the son of a bitch. They really should have just, taken saws, axes, whatever, and just, cut his head off. Oh, I've said that before, but yeah. But the other really good, the acting is all pretty good. Like, these, it's all serviceable. Nobody felt, like, too corny, except for the gay couple, which, they're gonna be like, oh, it's inclusive, but it's like the gay couple acts very stereotypically. That's all I'm gonna say. And, Laurie Strode, or, as I said already, Jamie Lee Curtis is great. And the other star is John Carpenter is doing the music, which it's awesome. Like, if nothing else, this movie has a wonderful score. 2018 had a wonderful score. Seems like most movies John Carpenter does are the wonderful score, because he's really good at that kind of synth electronic type music. And yeah, so my final thoughts is that if there's a third, when there's a third movie, maybe then I can recommend this. If there's a third movie that finally gives full closure, I don't really trust them to do that. But I would recommend 2018 if you just kind of leave that on its own, it's kind of ambiguous maybe at the end or whatever. But the whole theming of this movie of we gotta destroy evil, evil dies tonight. It doesn't, and it's just like it doesn't. Now, like, there's horror movies like the Poughkeepsie tapes, right? Where there isn't supposed to be closure. Kind of the point is to leave you angry and frustrated. But you don't do that with Halloween, where it's almost kind of an action movie at points. Or you don't do it where it's like, this all felt like it was building up to something. Like, having a final confrontation would be wonderful. But it didn't happen. Maybe maybe the sequel will finally finish it. I don't know. Probably not, because you don't let franchises die. It seems like Michael Myers is being kept alive not so much by like the evil emotions of hatred and anger and pure evil, but because of just greed of studios that they can't let this thing die, which is a little poetic if you look at it that way. But anyways, that's my review. Hopefully more videos to come. God bless and good night.